The story of Kate Shelley. It was a cold day in Ireland, December of 1863, when Kate Shelley was born to her parents, Michael and Nora Shelley. When Kate was only 9 months old, she and her parents immigrated to the United States. There they spent some time with relatives in Freeport, Illinois, and then headed west to settle on a quarter section of farmland near Moingona, Iowa. Unfortunately, the land was not prime Iowa farmland, and Kate's father ended up having to get a job as a section hand on the railroad. It was growing to meet the demands of the Boone County mines. The Shelleys finally built a small frame house on the ground which was only a short distance from Honey Creek, a tributary of the Des Moines River, and within sight of the railroad's Honey Creek Bridge. By the time Kate was 12, 4 other siblings had been added to the family: Margaret, Mamie, Michael Jr., and John. Tragically, her father was killed in a railroad accident. Shortly after, Michael Jr., the oldest boy, drowned while swimming in the Des Moines River. Mrs. Shelley's health broke under the strain, and Kate took over as head of the household. The young girl who was struggling to keep her family together could never have dreamed of what life had in store for her. July 6, 1881, started out as a clear day, but by dusk thunderstorms were rolling into the area. The storms were heavy, and stiff winds blew through the valley. Heavy lightning lit up the skies. The Shelleys kept a close eye on the storm. Honey Creek was already high because of the recent rains, and now it was continuing to rise, threatening a stable halfway between the Shelleys' home and Honey Creek. Kate wandered through the knee-deep water and mud to get to the stable and release the animals. Kate and her mother kept an eye on the creek as the night wore on. Coming from a railroad family, both women knew of the dangers that a flood on Honey Creek could present. At 11 o'clock, Kate and her mother heard old number 12 with 4 people on board crossing the nearby Des Moines River Bridge. As the train crossed the bridge, Kate and her mother twice heard its bell, and then came the horrible crash and fierce hissing of steam as the engine plunged into the swollen stream below. Despite the shock of the accident, another thought raced through Kate's mind. Another train was due. The midnight express from the west would soon try to cross the same bridge. The express must be stopped when it arrived in Moingona, but that meant someone had to cross the long Des Moines River Bridge. There was no one but Kate to try to make the crossing. She ran out into the storm, clothed in an old skirt and jacket, and only having one of her father's old railroad lanterns to guide the way. She made her way to the washed-out bridge. In the light of the lightning, she saw 2 of the railroad men who had temporarily struggled to safety by clinging to some low-hanging branches. Knowing her best chance of helping them and others was to reach the Moingona station, Kate pressed on. Crossing the bridge, even in fair weather, was no easy task. The railroad knew of the dangers of the high bridge and prohibited anyone from walking on it. To discourage trespassers, they'd removed some of the flooring from the bridge, leaving large gaps between the ties. Kate's first few steps onto the bridge proved to her how difficult the crossing would be when a gust of wind almost blew her off the trestle. If she were to cross the span, it would have to be on her hands and her knees. Kate began the long crawl, trying to light her way with her father's lantern. It soon went out in the downpour, leaving her in the dark, groping for each tie in front of her. Track spikes ripped her skirt, and splinters tore her skin, but she pressed on, with only the extreme flashes of lightning to light her way. Finally, she reached for a tie and felt solid ground instead. Running down the track, she finally reached the Moingona station and told them her news, only to hear someone say, "The girl is crazy." She fainted. When Kate awakened a short time later, she was told that the station agent had recognized her and realized the express must be stopped. A rescue party was being assembled for the men from the old number 12. Kate insisted on going with the rescue party, and she guided them to the west bank of the creek where the survivors of the wreck could be helped. The two men were both rescued. Word of Kate's amazing rescue story was sent nationwide and eventually internationally, first via the railroad's telegraph wires and then by the news media. Kate got no rest for days as reporter after reporter showed up on her doorstep. She was so worn down by the ordeal, she was afterwards confined to her bed for 3 months to recover. The world was waiting for Kate when she finally recovered. Everyone, it seemed, wanted to help this young girl who had given her all. The passengers of the train she saved collected a few $100s for her. The school children of Dubuque gave her a medal. The state of Iowa gave her another, along with an award of $200. The Chicago and Northwestern Railroad presented her with $100, a half a barrel of flour, half a load of coal, and a lifetime pass to ride their railroad. A gold watch and chain came from the Order of Railway Conductors. Poems were written in her honor commemorating the event. A famous reformer and temperance leader, Frances E. Willard, was so inspired by the story she contributed $25 toward providing advanced education for Kate at Simpson College. As the years passed, Kate's fame wore off, and she eventually passed the examinations for a teacher's certificate. She taught in a small country school near her home, earning a monthly salary of $35. The money wasn't enough to meet expenses, and in 1890 a Chicago newspaper discovered that the Shelleys' home was mortgaged on a $500 loan at 10% interest. A payment was due soon, and it seemed that the Shelleys would be forced from their home. The public response was immediate. Not only was their mortgage paid, but additional cash gifts totaled $417. The Iowa legislature voted Kate a grant of $5,000, and a publisher of school textbooks put an account of her heroism into a third reader, which was used in Iowa schools. Over the years, the Northwestern Railroad had several times offered Kate a job, and finally, in 1903, she accepted and became station agent at Moingona. Twice each day, she made the journey between her home and the station on foot. It was a route she well knew, as it was the same she'd taken that dark night in 1881. The bridge she crossed was replaced in 1900 by a new iron bridge named for Kate over the Des Moines River. Kate never married. She worked up until shortly before her death on January 21, 1912. Several books have been written about Kate Shelley in her honor. The people of Moingona still honor her and even have a park named after her. This is the museum in her honor that's filled with many pictures and items that she had during her life. Even today, the bridge that was built in her honor is still in use. And just a few years ago, they started building another bridge that will also be named after Kate Shelley. She may be gone now, but her memory lives on. Because of her bravery that night and her desire to help many people, we'll always remember her, and she'll always have a special place in our hearts. She is a true hero.